Yes.
My non-existing necktie. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, that's what we like.
Yeah.
Can I have some more
Right.
wild hair? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Hey.
Existential waves. Robertszentes,
Hello.
master of no mind, author of Mastering Your Mind and the Advanced Mind Institute, man of many sentences. How are you?
Good. You?
Good. We had a request for another tinfoil transmission, and the discussion began with how those of us who are existential, we strive to remain in the present moment, 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 in the present moment. Oh, I think that was a nested loop. Anyway, as one moment dies, a new one is born. And in between the two, there is this unknown zone, maybe the original Twilight Zone. So the request is that we could speak about this unknown zone today.
Awesome.
You're down for unknown?
Oh, heck yeah. That's my domain. Because once you realize that what we fear and what we call the unknown, a lot of it we actually do know already. It's just our fear about it is what keeps us shy about it and keeps us where we are. And what I like to do in this talk today is to help people understand why we have this fear of this unknown, why that is an essential part of us, and how it is very dangerous if we don't face it. Is that cool?
Yes. But would you start by defining the unknown? What would you call the unknown?
Well, the unknown is, you could be extremely theoretical, and I'm sure that if you ask me the same question tomorrow, I'll add to it. But the unknown is the things that we don't know. The unknown is the domain that we haven't experienced yet. The unknown is the infinite. The unknown is where we haven't ventured before. So it's an extremely exciting topic for me because when I help people and I coach them and I assist them in their transformation, we do enter this unknown zone because, and I'll tell you, this is going to be very exciting because in this zone, in this unknown zone, is where the answers are to our problems. Now imagine that we need to go there for the answers, but then we have a fear about it. So that's why so many people are stuck. Because on one hand, they know they need to do this self-discovery, enter this domain of the unknown. And then there's the other part, which is pretty scary just because they think it is scary. So I'd like to shed some light on that later in this talk, why it is scary and why it shouldn't be scary and what you can do about it.
Well, great. Let me ask why it is scary.
Well, because for many reasons, but these reasons are not real reasons. They are more excuses than reasons, okay? But because once you enter the zone or the domain of the unknown, you are going to realize that 99.9% of all your problems are self-perpetuated and self-created. And you have to face yourself and go, damn, what was I thinking? So we don't want to face this level of frustration. And our ego then is programmed to hold on to thoughts, the past, and reminisce, and all this stuff. So we just say we are fine where we are. Of course, that's not true. And then we avoid, seeking out the solution. So it is scary because we have to look at what we perceive our failed selves and our failed stories. Okay, that's not comfortable, but that's just a perception because we haven't really failed. We just put puzzle pieces together or puzzle pieces in place so that we could start seeing the bigger picture. And then another reason, of course, I could go on and on and on about why it's scary for most people to enter this unknown, is because they have to give up certain attachments to their misery and suffering. That is not something the ego wants us to do. Okay? Because when you really go deep and you really do the transformation, the spiritual transformation, you begin to notice how easy life is. And this is what's so interesting when I listen to extremely well broken through spiritual leaders, and there aren't that many, so don't fool yourself. Okay, they say it's easy. Well, yeah, easy when you walk through the 100,000 levels, right? But you have to enter the unknown, because the unknown then becomes our mastery, and we will not fear it. And then you'll find that in this domain, in the domain of the unknown, you actually have incredible guidance.
How so?
In this domain, you get rid of a lot of your insecurities, a lot of the insufficiencies, a lot of your shadow stories, a lot of your resentments, a lot of the guilt patterns that we've accumulated over the centuries and the thousands of years. And when you become clear of that, you have access to higher dimensions where you get guidance from masters, ascended masters, your higher self, if you understand, I know you do, but I'm talking to the viewers. You understand that, and all of a sudden, the unknown becomes our familiar path, right? Because now we have guidance, we have faith, we have trust, and we understand the workings of the universe. And even if we don't have the answers, with the new upgraded mindset, which is a byproduct of our inner work, then we will navigate through this space, find the answers, heal ourselves, find the connections, find the new friendships, and create a life worth living. On the contrary, what happens if you don't do that, right? So the fear is very devastating. The fear of the unknown is very devastating because by design, we are supposed to explore. We are supposed to find out who we are, do the inner work, create new connections, join together as an upgraded species, and then share our gifts. People who don't do that will create incredible pain inside them. They create repeated failures, they create all kinds of resentments, and by default, they will start shrinking. Their thinking shrinks, their whole body starts exhibiting the symptoms. So it is not a healthy thing to fear it. And that's why I'm excited to talk about this today, because by design, we are supposed to be the explorers. By design, we are supposed to be the expanders, the adventurous ones. But over time, due to our lack of understanding of what is supposed to be done and how it's supposed to happen, and the true recipe has been hidden or inaccessible or whatever, maybe denied by us. So as you know, we live in a very interesting time, very confusing for many. But once you do the inner work, the confusion goes away. You will see very clearly what's happening, what the next step is, what your next step is. And that can be achieved very easily when you release your fear of the unknown.
So if we're meant to explore, expand, and be adventurous, then where does that fear arise from? What purpose does it serve?
Well, I'll give you a few examples because I want this to be very relatable. We have to start at a high level, like a 30,000 foot level, and then have to come down where people have tangible examples. You said that we are meant to grow, meant to explore, meant to heal ourselves, we meant to do a bunch of things. But over time, we were told and we bought into beliefs that if you go too far, then you will lose your friends. If you grow too big, then you will lose your family. If you do this, then blank, right? So we installed, or we've been given beliefs that we accepted. No one can really tell us anything until we accept it, and then becomes ours, and then our life morphs to our new belief structure. But people fear this unknown is because they fear a few additional things. What people call the fear of the unknown is actually a collection, a group of fears that many people might have heard of, but they never resolve them properly because it's multifaceted. Deep down, when you do the work, and I'm talking about like the tens of thousands of steps, going into the quantum core shadows, your DNA shadows, your soul patterns, way beyond the mind, then you'll find out how incredibly powerful we are. You'll find out how incredibly intelligent we are, that we are deep, 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 deep down, way below our dark side. We have an incredible bright light. And that frightens people. That frightens people. Our power and our light frightens people. And I emphasize that because that is the main reason why humanity is stuck today, because the very thing that we are supposed to uncover, embrace, and master is the very thing that we reject, and then we buy into other tens of thousands of cover-up stories, and we buy into second-class behaviors and second-class thinking. You know, so in other words, the fear of the unknown is something that is natural, and yet you absolutely have to understand how to cross these thresholds and start mastering life. Will everyone do it? The answer is no. What will happen to those who don't? Well, not many good things. Okay, not many good things. But what will happen to those who do master it? Well, all the good things. Master themselves, they'll live respectfully, they'll develop a very honorable life, they develop a very empowered life. And that is what billions of people are missing out on today. And that's changing, which is very exciting for me, because when people really start going for the light through the darkness, and they find it and they master it, then we will have a wonderful upgraded consciousness, humanity, and a different planet. I'm very excited about that.
So a few metaphors come to my mind for our innate reaction to the unknown. And one is the way animals have a shock collar in place of a fence. So there's some electric shock trigger as they approach the boundary of where they're not supposed to cross. And that shocks them. And because of that, they don't continue crossing that boundary. But the truth is, there's no fence there. There's the one shock. And if they simply cross that boundary, they're free. Is there something similar in this regard, that our fear of the unknown causes us to not cross that boundary line, and then, but we're so close to actually touching or tasting our own freedom if we overcome that moment of shock?
Yeah, I love the question, because I'll tell you this right up front, that most humans are programmed subconsciously to reject freedom. They fear freedom, okay? Even if they go yak, 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 the opposite, it's not true. Subconsciously, they are horrified of light, of power, and freedom. So when that's their value system, they will go out of their way to cancel it and sabotage. I like what you said about this invisible fence, because why do pet owners or this mainly for dogs, I would assume, this invisible fence is that so they don't go far away, they don't venture. And if you want to be like really good-hearted, say, oh, it's for their safety, okay? So the same thing applies for humans. We don't want to cross these thresholds for our safety because we have a perception, we have beliefs that over there is not safe. And that's what I wrote in my book in chapter 7, that if you begin to move forward, which you have to, otherwise you'll perish, then a lot of these thresholds, or what's on the other side of this electric fence, this invisible fence, rather, feels unsafe. So you have to reframe that belief, because what is unsafe about on the other side of the line in the sand? Nothing. It's a belief. Okay. And here's a really good practical exercise. Those viewers who actually are able to do it, they could go on the beach and the sand draw a line and say, here I am on this side, and on the other side of the line, there's my dreams, my aspirations, and you step over it. And your mind will accept it as that you have stepped over a group of your fears, and your life will change. You begin to move forward. Those people who have no access to the beach, you could do it in the dirt. Maybe put masking tape on the floor, and just imagine that on this side is my current reality, and on the other side is what you imagine. See, when we begin to really train our mind in this fashion, then we begin to really start fulfilling our soul commitment and soul promises. So a lot of these invisible fences, as you said, are installed and accepted by ourselves for two purposes. One is to keep us sort of safe in retreat while we are gathering the courage to step out of that comfort zone. So that's good. The problem is that we don't know how to break out of it, so we stay there stuck and we perpetuate the problem. So when you hear people say, I feel stuck, it's like, yeah, because you have not learned how to cross these boundaries. The only reason why people have problems in life, Alicia, is because the perspective is too small. The perspective is too small. Their understanding of the composition of the current situation is too small. I'll give you an example. In relationships, the most commonly misunderstood thing is what you're supposed to do in a relationship. The number one function in a relationship is to heal each other. If somebody feels like you're feeling like you're attacked, what is the reaction that you have? Run away, run out, call it a day, call it quits? Well, you're supposed to do the opposite. What if you were actually, that's a soul contract where you rush to the rescue of that other person? So life is pretty much 99% inverted for most people. Our behaviors, our thoughts, our beliefs are exactly almost the opposite of what is supposed to be happening. And this electric fence, as I mentioned, is therefore to keep us safe while we gather courage. But this is where a lot of people fail. They don't gather courage, they gather excuses. So they get stuck. Okay. And the other reason for this electric fence is that when you cross, I'll tell you this, you have a sense of accomplishment. Most people lack any sense of accomplishment because they are stuck on this side of the invisible fence.
Well, that cues my other metaphor, because in this metaphor, it's the way that they train baby elephants to remain in captivity. So when it's a baby elephant, they'll wrap a cord around its foot and tie it to a pole. And it learns that it can't move. And then as the elephant gets older, just the simple act of the cord around its leg is enough to cue its belief that it can't move. Even though it's a mighty elephant, it's full of power, it could literally rip the pole out of the ground. If it chose, it could move into its own freedom in any moment. But instead, it just stays in this submissive state of having that cord, only the cord, not even a pull, just the cord around its leg. So would you say that fits as well to what you're saying?
Yeah, totally. I've noticed that I've been teaching for 12 years and beyond. And I'm familiar with that metaphor. In fact, it's also in my book, in the introduction chapter, as a good example, how our beliefs are formed. And many of our beliefs that we have are limiting beliefs, limiting us from freedom, limiting us from achievement, limiting us from exploring and finding our greatness, limiting from healing, and so forth. In the case of this baby elephant, it's very similar to what happens to people. As you could see, that the baby elephant will accept a limited reality or a constricted set of ideas, but then the problem is that instead of outgrowing them and go, hey, I'm a big guy, one step and I can pull that thing out of the ground, I'm free. He accepted the fact that he's not free. Many people have the same belief. They accepted the fact that they can only move so far. The elephant did too. But I'll tell you this, and this will shock people, which is good. I like to shock people because it's about time to do that. We are driven by our beliefs, but we also, what we don't realize is that we imagine that we are a certain way. We act good, we act, ideal or societally acceptable, but deep down our shadow characters, which I think you and I are going to do another upcoming episode about, will act out. Many of our shadow characters are things that we would never, ever, ever want to do or think we would do, and they will act it out through us. I'll tell you this in the case of the elephant. Stay stuck. Why? Because it became a little bit of conformist. It became, what people call a doormat. It's not thinking for itself anymore. People do the same thing because it's been conditioned and programmed to accept a substandard reality. Now, imagine that when you know these things, at first it feels like a punch to the throat. Oh, this guy's right, damn. But then at the same time, if you're willing, you all of a sudden erased one of the thousands of these invisible fences, and you go and start developing self-confidence. Because if you stay on this side of this invisible fence, your self-confidence goes wow, wow, wow. If you stay on this side of the fence, your self-worth goes wow, wow, wow. And then the universe matches our self-worth so that the circumstances and the events will match the energy of it. And it's going to look like we became magnets to suboptimal results. So great metaphor. Yeah, little elephant to big elephant, little people to big people. But the problem is that our adult bodies are not indicative of our strength, but rather our mind, and how integrated that mind is what will create our reality, whether we like it or not.
Well, what about as we begin exploring in the boundary line of the unknown? There are so many inner voices that seem to conflict. It's hard to know sometimes what is your guidance, your navigation, what is your fear, as you say, maybe what is your shadow, or the many characters within the shadow. How can you know? How can you know what to follow? How can you know what voice has you and is taking you forward?
I love that, because what voice has your best interest, right? Now, you learn, okay? One of the first things that I like to recommend is get clear on what you want and also why. As people say, I want a relationship. Why? Of course, we all do. I'm not challenging it, but what are your reasons? Many people have a lot of negative reasons, so that I am not alone, so that I don't have to get old, grow old. These are all negative, motivated thinking patterns. So as you begin to develop your goal, you orient yourself towards an achievement, an outcome. Very important. Most people have none. Step number one, get clear on what you want and begin to move forward. And then as you begin to move forward, you automatically start moving forward to it, because the universe begins to present pieces of that puzzle to you. And this is where your question comes in. Like, who do I listen to? These inner voices are now seemingly going against me. And if you think about it, a lot of these inner voices that we hear that are negative are well-practiced thoughts that come from probably generations. We might have said those to ourselves in this lifetime, but what if our parents were talking to themselves the same way? What if an entire society has been conditioned to talk that way? Okay, these are things to ponder, because then when you know that, and here's why I'm suggesting it, it's very, very empowering. All of a sudden, our ego's attachment to self-blame and blame drops, so we can start seeing the bigger picture. It's like, oh, it's not that something is wrong with me, but rather it has been the pattern for generations, and it's my gift and my opportunity to fix it. But you see, people will never reach this level of clarity if they stay on this side of the fence, the invisible fence. And when we stay on this side of the fence, pain is the byproduct. So then the little voices, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. One thing I recommend in my book is start writing everything down. You really have to start decoding your mind. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, because women like to feel things and submerge into emotions, and they sit with, that for a month and 2 months. Great, fine. It's not going to do it. You still have to do the damn work. It's not work. Sitting with the emotion is not the work. You have to understand what they signify. Okay? And then when you do that, that's when revelations come. That's when you heal. He said, I'm saying this, or I'm hearing this because, and write everything down. And probably you're going to spew out a lot of self-deprecating statements and beliefs about yourself. And then what you could do, one of the simplest things to overwrite a belief, a self-deprecating belief, is to look at it and go, you know what? I don't need this anymore. And you cross it out on the piece of paper. And all of a sudden you conditioned your mind to not be attached to that thinking pattern, and you move on and you grow. Okay, go ahead, please. I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, I'm sorry I cut you off, because really what you're describing is a master's / PhD level inner work. And I was just suggesting for those of us that are at a very low level, that are just getting started, that a great tool is the Magic 8-Ball. If you're unsure what to do, you can just, ask the Magic 8-Ball, and
ask me later.
It'll give you some kind of answer.
Definitely, yes. You know the answer.
I'll tell you this. This was not PhD level. This was introductory level 101. To decode your mind and say, because. This is the first step in a 10,000 step journey. So, we are at the point, and I'll tell you this, in our evolution where we cannot afford to be ignorant. Humanity has been fooled, betrayed, and it's our time to come out of that thinking pattern and really step up. I've been teaching for many, many years, and I've overcome thousands of medical conditions and thousands of heartbreaks and all kinds of traumas. And I do know that what holds our entire humanity hostage is these limited thinking patterns. So that is not a PhD level. I teach PhD level, and that is like 10,000 steps later. But start doing this. I'm saying this because, and you document it, and you start nulling out your limiting, self-deprecating thoughts. And then when you are doing that, that's when you become more competent. That's when you become more able to cross these invisible thresholds, and then you will always find the next step. The universe will guide you to the next step. I hope that helps, okay? Because I don't want people say, one of the biggest mistakes people do, and this is a low self-esteem thing, and they say, oh, it's not for me. Hell, it is for you. It's for everyone, right? Because the moment you say it's not for me, that you are self-deprecating. Why is it not for you? Because I'm small. It's exactly, I'm on this side of the invisible fence, and I'm not able to cross it because. And if you're radically honest, that's when you begin to move. And here's another thing. There's no honor in smallness. There's no honor in playing small and being stuck. The honor comes when you do the opposite. So in other words, the counterintuitiveness is what's missing from humanity. And that is what needs to be installed by new leadership. We can talk about it another time, but I'm telling you, for the sake of our viewers, stop thinking small, because that means that you're on this side of the fence. Cool?
Or if you're thinking small and you become aware of that, know that that thinking may be the electric fence, and start to,
You like what?
that thinking may be the electric fence.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's, in my experience, it's hard to stop doing anything, but you can become aware and bring your awareness to what's happening, and then with a spirit of curiosity, start to work with that and move through it.
Yeah, you got to do the work. You got to get going. You got to buckle up and face life, because the topic here is the fear of the unknown. If we don't do that, we'll never face life. We'll just go. We perpetuate misery. And you might notice that today I'm not exactly soft, but that's what people need. I'm very, very connected, so I know exactly what I need to convey, and whoever likes it. Who doesn't like it will continue to suffer. So it's time to step up. And that's the ultimate message. If you need help, help is available, but it's not on this side of the electric fence or the invisible fence. It's on the other side. Once you begin to move and you exhibit that you have trust, you have faith, and then you have the perseverance and the commitment to change, then magic begins to happen. And this is the underlying message. Over here is a safe zone, comfort zone. Fine, we all get it. Get out of there. If you have to, explore and come back, that's fine. Just don't be stuck on this side. That's all.
What about for those, they feel they need some proof in order to trust that if they cross that line, help is there? Right now, you're saying help is there, but how can they be sure?
I love the question because it has a lot of different angles to it. There's so much hurt that we have accumulated and observed. Now, I'm not here to dwell in the past and hurt. I'm saying this because I want to acknowledge that life is not exactly easy, especially for those that want to do something with themselves and with their life. So who do you trust? Well, you really have to, really have to start paying attention to your intuition, not your feelings, because those are tainted by the ego. Your intuition. Does this person have what I want? And has this person been where I am today? Okay.
How do you
Step
know
number
the
one.
difference between your intuition and your feelings?
Well, your feelings is okay. So your intuition is your third eye. It is something that you receive without trying and without fighting. Quite often, the feeling is this tainted entity or group of feedbacks where you compare, to painful memories and basically what I would say is if your intuition, you're able to hear this extremely subtle thing that yes, and then the feeling could talk you out of it.
Looks like a no. Definitely no. Everything
brings me out of
indicates no.
So people have been trained to use their intuition less and trust their inverted feelings. So that's step number one, is start, working on your negative emotions, working on your belief structures, and then of course the other stuff, right? Which I've been teaching and like literally lecturing about for many years. So it's a process. Okay, open up your third eye, start doing it, and work on your emotional world, and then understand that your ego is invested in holding on to the problem. Okay, so we have to use our willpower, our logic, and then make certain decisions that will, give us the path or give us at least a direction that we can pursue. And then, you find people who are good-hearted, who mean well, and this is going to be a very different process very, very shortly, because there was too much trickery and people were using these inner conflicts and people's weaknesses against them. So it's all going to change. This is going to go away. And a new humanity will have to be trained. And I think you're going to be part of it. Okay. So a lot of this old stuff needs to fall away, and we need to step up and then use our upgraded mindset to create a different world. Because if we don't do that, that's why history recreates itself, is because we recreate ourselves through our lack of evolution, our lack of subconscious training.
Differentiate between your feelings and intuition, and start to follow your intuition. And you're describing that process to do with a third eye opening up. And as you do that, you will find people that are good-hearted and will be
exactly
supporting you.
But here's the deal. It's really interesting. And as you notice, this went a totally different direction. And I like the direction it's going because it's different. You know, I think what happens is that if your intuition says, yeah, go for it, you will have negative emotions because of these thresholds, because of these invisible, you know, that negative emotion is just an indication there's something to be examined. Intuition still will tell, keep going, trust, have faith. But if we don't understand the nature of negative emotions, then our ego will lead us down the wrong path, will create more trauma. And this is what's hard. And I understand the question, I respect it, because I've made many, many mistakes because of it. But now I learned, you know, I help people retrain and transcend their ego, and then heal the mind and the heart space so that the intuition becomes dominant and they can really hear it finally.
Well, it does sound a little complicated, because as you listen to the intuition and perhaps start taking risks on the basis of what you believe it's telling you, there are negative emotions, which could be, you know, baggage, trauma, the input from family, old beliefs, etc. Or there could be shadow, you know, you this is your domain. So basically there's like 1,000 different things that are there that could be pitfalls or landmines or whatever metaphor. And so, and maybe that again ties back to the hero's journey, where it's a process where you fall into a pitfall, you step on a landmine, and then you get back up and keep going. And hopefully someone is there also to give you a hand when you need it.
Yeah, you know, the way I have lived life and the way I've been teaching this is you don't have to step on landmines anymore. And this is part of the fear. Oh, what will happen? You know, what will I lose? What will all these subtle considerations that actually keep people where they are and they eventually self-destruct. The landmines were there in the past because we had inner conflicts and our intuition, we didn't listen to the intuition. Once you listen to intuition, you will not step on landmines. We only step on landmines for two reasons. One is to learn from, and the other is because our ego perpetuates our unresolved traumas. So does the inner work and the necessity of it, you know?
Okay, so if you step on a landmine, that wasn't your intuition.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Exactly. I hope that's clear, because as you know, I'm just stunned how little understanding of there is of this. You know, we are this incredibly powerful beings, and yet there's so much confusion about what to do, what to listen to, what not to listen to. And as you probably know, that there's more for us to unlearn than to learn, because we learn too many incorrect things. And
there's a lot of noise surrounding us.
Exactly.
Externally and then internally.
So, you know, something came to me, let me share, because it might help. I am not a big fan of support groups, but some might be extremely helpful. Like have a good friend who is spiritually evolved, or, you know, is advanced, better word. And then share some ideas and then see what the feedback is. But the problem that I have found is that quite often support groups also project their own limitations and fears while they advise. So use a discernment. It's quite okay to have problems because the problem indicates that you are in the space of growth. Accepting the problem in its nature or saying it doesn't exist and buying into it is the problem. So,
Okay, so
So-
you're suggesting for some that support groups are helpful and specifically the right quality of a support group.
Correct. They are the quality. Exactly. Make sure that, say, everybody projects. I project, you project, every single person. Most people project pain, suffering, and limitation. What I project is possibility. What I see project is, hey, you can do it. It's in you. Is it going to be, so make sure that you understand that the advice comes from a very neutral place. It's not coming from a place where they project their limitations or negative emotions, but they say, hey, look, I've known you. I've seen that this is, something that should come naturally for you. I'll be there. Please go for it. Give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it, then we'll examine why. And this is what humans need to learn, is that it's quite okay to do something. And if it doesn't exactly give you the results or the outcomes, then you can always go back to the drawing board and examine why. Okay, that's a very important piece. So yeah, support groups, good coach, a good mentor, definitely is a part of the growth curve.
What else would you like to tell people about getting through the unknown zone?
Well, I feel like I'm from the future, right? Because I see where humanity is headed and where it's been coming from, and I know what is coming, and it's good, but we have to be able to grow spiritually and really overcome our stuff. What I like to tell people is that instead of hastily making decisions based on fear, also start allowing your heart and the heart space to advise you. Because the heart never lies, even if it's broken. And then as you begin to trust it, because it's a process, then you see how your mind and the ego-controlled mind is opposing that movement. And then you learn how to create coherence between your mind and your heart. And when you do that, and also understand the nature of fear, and you're able to apply the right techniques, then you will never, ever, ever have to be stuck for too long on one side of this invisible thing. Okay? And the thing is, not everyone is wired to overcome their stuff. Some actually are here to show us an example of what the lack of change and the buying into the fear looks like. But it doesn't mean that those of us that have the motive, the desire, and the inner strength and the inner build, the character, to do something with our lives, to do something bigger, then we need to look at the world not from the eyes of judgment, but rather from the eyes of information. Okay, they are there, they're doing that. I am here to do this. Like me, I am not here to tiptoe around issues. I'm a master coach. And when people come to me, they've tried a bunch of things already. And they talk about the bunch of things they tried. And I know what they tried, and I've tried them too. But the thing is, if you are willing to take a few steps back and really allow yourself to be on the path, not in the excuse world, not in the ego, not in this game of scarcity and competition, then you can really start creating some amazing experiences. Okay? That is what I'd like people to understand. Life requires courage. And the uncourageous self is a shadow self, which I'd like to have another episode about it. So have the courage, gather up the courage, find the right people, and start seeing, because it's not evident. When you're in the forest, you might not be able to, see. But stop buying into excuses and start creating a forward momentum where you are coming out of an old situation, because invisibly, you also help the whole. Okay? You help yourself, of course. Many people feel selfish about it, which is another shadow conflict, right? But start really helping yourself, and through that, you help the collective. Cool? That's a very empowering message. I realize that. I hope that, just with that cut, we could just leave it the way it is, because the intelligent people that I cater to might have to take a gulp, or might go, but they will see the truth in it. And this is what's needed: more truth and less excuses. Because the truth is that we are powerful beyond measure. The truth is that incredible gifts are inside us. The truth is that we can be and do and have anything we want. And then the question is, why aren't those things happening? Okay. So that's what we need to really start doing, like decoding our limitations, eliminating the limitations, and stepping into a greatness.
Great. Boom.
Yeah. Boom, baby. Now it's time to drink, right?
I need you to, I really do need you to embrace my magic 8 ball.
The answer is yes.
All right.
Yes. Everything indicates yes. No.
You also, I want to say one more thing. You also find that this is, again, back to the intuition feeling kind of thing. When you are a very, very broken through, spiritually aligned person, you're not a softy paw. You're not a doormat. You're not going to roll over and try to appease people. You're very, 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 very compassionate. That means you understand the journey. You understand that it comes with a myriad of different pain points. But my job is not to be the softy paw, but rather to tell you that I see the greatness in you, and I see that it hurts, and I know that it's going to hurt. But if once you go through it, you can achieve the pain-free greatness that you dreamt of as a child. But don't you tell me for a second that you will quit on me, okay? Because that's the problem that people have. They quit. They quit too early. And I want people to know that the quitter is in all of us. It's another shadow character, right? And then we'll talk about it, because I think that's going to be another eye-opening thing. But understand that when somebody speaks the truth, and it's not the nice and the soft and the tiptoeing around, it doesn't mean that the message is not for you. It just means that the person cares enough to put his or her interest aside and share the truth, because we see the greatness in you. The ego likes to misinterpret that. The ego likes to see viciousness in this kind of exhibition or behavior, the untrained ego. And the more we work on ourselves, the inner works result is that you say, this guy is freaking spot on and I love him. I don't need people to love me, but I'm just saying, if you find yourself all dissonant, oh, this is not for me. It is for you. And it's not for you because, and then here comes the self-deprecating list. So heal that. And then you're going to be able to, get the wheel of healing into motion, and you can start coming out of the wheel of karma. Cool? So I think it's important for people to know that the truth will set you free, but in the beginning, it may sound a bit harsh because it goes against the programming that we have been receiving for thousands of years. And when you're willing to be objective about it, overcome your resistance to it, overcome your, emotional turmoil about it, and then begin to do the work. Cool? So that was my master coach advice with love.
Existential wave. I particularly liked when you said, get your wheel of healing in motion and free yourself from the wheel of karma.
Exactly. And the wheel of karma is going to perpetuate itself if you don't do the inner work. And I mean the real inner work. Not just sit with, but you really go boom, boom, boom. Okay, what's going on? Be willing to examine yourself, understand the logic, and then rise above it.
Not just sit with your magic 8 ball.
Yeah, you can do that. If that's your thing. For me, it would be annoying. I would probably throw it out the window the first day. But, basically, when you become intuitive, you become the magic 8 ball, right? And this is a part of the spiritual frustration that I have is like, I see people suffering and I know what the problem is. I know how to fix it. It's a lot faster than they think. And they still go excuse, 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 and 10,000 excuses and so on and so forth. So I'm saying, get over it. Okay. It's time to step up. All right. Because there's a solution. And that's what I like to tell people. It's like, there's always a solution, but we be willing to be humble enough to accept it.
And what's your vision of when people get there? You're so eager, you're frustrated, you have all this excitement around it. And where is it that what's the goal that you have in your sight?
Well, I'll tell you this, the timing of things is always up to the divine. So, I can, extrapolate on it, but I may not be on point exactly. I do know that humanity will need a massive upgrade, and that time is here. Okay, for thousands of years, people who were broken through and spiritually aware and spoke the truth, were viewed as, oh, they're a bit outlandish or a little scary. It's not for me, blah, blah. Okay, those times are over. Okay, the 3D matrix as we know it is gone. Okay, the limitations, the excuse is gone. So humanity needs to step up now. Now, here's the thing. There are many different levels of evolution. Everybody needs to really step on the path of spirituality. And what that means is working on inner mind. And this is something that hasn't been taught on purpose. We can get into later why, but that's something that people need to really start embracing. The inner mind, working through our conflicts, our shadows, and our beliefs, the negative beliefs. I'll give you the answer, the straight answer to that, which is within the next 2 years for sure. But I think even within this year, the rest of the year, it's going to be massive, massive shifts in consciousness. And consciousness means awareness of our power, awareness of our inner workings, awareness how we create a world. And through our unhealed thoughts, we actually create and perpetuate misery. So how do we become more self-responsible? Instead of looking at the world and being angry with it, how do we heal our mind? How do we heal our stuff? And then we create a better world through that. Okay. So it's going to happen in multiple steps. I would say within the next 3 months is going to be a huge step. And within the next year, there's going to be another huge step and another huge step the next year. So, we're going to be ratcheted up, whether we want it or not, to a higher vibration. And the only way to survive is by raising our vibration, which is working on our mind.
So you feel a sense of urgency that people know this, people are ready and willing participants in this process, and that they take full advantage of the possibilities?
I like how you said that. There's a sense of urgency, but not for me. Obviously, I've done the work. I feel amazing. I'm doing really well. Okay. But there is a sense of urgency for humanity, because in the old days, the lack of spirituality, the lack of being not broken through, the need to hold on to misery and suffering actually created a collective misery and suffering. So we were influenced, old souls were influenced by it too. Today, it's a different cleaning process. So people who don't want to step on the path will not be allowed to continue. They'll tata off and go someplace else, which is great, right? So those that really want to step up, those that really want to claim their life and their mind and their heart, then they will have a chance, but not for much longer. So what's happening is, as the vibrations are rising, people who want to purposely stay in low vibration, either it's their soul contract or they are in fear. There won't be much more time before the gap is so large they won't be able to jump over. So I'm saying it for the sake of those that really want to fix stuff, right? So waiting around is a game of the ego. We'll do it later. Oh, next year, 3 years from now. Yeah, it's not going to work anymore. So I'm saying that we are at a cusp of an amazing time, an amazing shift. And whatever has been for the last 10,000 years is not working anymore. But people don't know that because, they are not in that space. But I do know that. So
the cosmic clock is ticking, and are you going to hear it and respond?
Exactly. I like that. Cosmic clock is ticking, and whoever joins, and whoever doesn't. I used to be very upset because that's part of our, it's an old soul pattern, right? It's like we've seen this before. We've seen this, for thousands of lifetimes. But now, because things finally shifted, we are not here to offer help for those that actually are humble enough to accept it and are on the path of moving up and ascending. Cool.
Cool.
Yippee. So yeah, I appreciate this. I'm glad that it went this way, because, and I hope you don't edit anything out of it. People need to hear the truth, and it's not going to be, I am actually still, compared to what's coming, this is softy paw stuff. Okay. So people will have to face a lot of stuff, and then the healing needs to begin at a collective level. So I'm excited about that. Okay.
Well, there are a lot of threads of shadow that we have yet to pull upon in our conversational tapestry. We promised our viewership and listenership that we will get to those topics, and so we will. And I do want everybody to know that this episode was sponsored by the Magic 8 Ball, despite Robert's lack of support for its profound
I
wisdom.
don't know the answer. Most likely a no.
From Robert.
Awesome. Yeah. So
To be
good seeing
continued.
you again. I appreciate this. Yeah. Well, let's talk about shadows and the necessity of knowing of them and healing them, because I think without that, people don't stand a chance. Okay. So it's time to embrace your power. It's time to step up, and then I look forward to our next talk.
And we'll hang out in the shadows.
Absolutely. Well,
Thank you
learn
so
about
much,
why
Robert.
it's absolutely worth it. It's always a pleasure.
Same.
Keep in touch.
Existential.
Take care. Yes.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.